Welcome in everybody to Scarves and Spikes Reaction Sunday. We're going to be chatting Atlanta United versus Philadelphia Union last night at the Benz. It was a 1-0 loss, unfortunately, for the Five Stripes. But Tommy, how you feeling? What do you think? What you got going on?
Well, they look better, but again, just a moment of someone kind of getting off their game. It causes an issue and it bites you. Brad Guzan's running out, miscalculates the ball. Abram, trying to make a nice save there, and I think it was a handball. I'm sure we'll get to that at some point, but I do think it was a handball.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I know we're going to dive into it. All the opinions are going to be running wild here in the chat. I'm sure in a minute. Derek, what's up? Donnell, my man. Me and him have already had a massive chat about this down in the locker room last night, so I know he knows my opinions on it. But as usual, we want y'all's opinions. Y'all throw them in the chat because this one's wild. Yeah, Tommy, if you can do that. I've got to figure out how to do that. We're typing in the background, just so y'all know. But yeah, I mean, I think this has been an interestingly divisive match. Look at that, man! You're learning.
I did things.
Um, the opinions on this match have been all over the place, and on one hand, I I see it. Yeah, Milan, for sure. No wild opinions here. I totally get that. At the end of the day, this is 8 games without a win, right? My math
Yeah.
might not be math, whatever. It's a lot of games without a win. Results matter. This is a results oriented business. Totally understand that. So I'll preface everything I'm going to say in the next hour ish by saying that Atlanta's got to win some games, period.
Yeah.
That doesn't change anything at all. But you take it on a game by game basis, and I do think there are some things about this one that at least are better than the previous matches that we've seen. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think there were some periods of time, especially early on, they didn't look like they were in another league. They weren't like they were the lower league coming into a game there. They looked like they were playing as a team. There were quite a few players that looked really good. Again, it was just one moment that really changed the game there, and also a big change up from Philadelphia. Bring Brebo in there to start the half. You knew that they were going for it at that moment. And when their offense really turned it on, because they did have some players that they were giving some rest to. I understand that's what's going to happen in the midweek games. So I don't know if the word, I was joking around that, oh man, they're toying with us. They're gonna just try to stay in the game as much as you can, and then get your guys out there around somewhere around the 45th to 60th minute, and then go for the win. And that was pretty much what happened.
Yeah, I mean, my three takeaways video I did last night outside the bins. It was weird, by the way. I was the only representative of Scarves and Spikes at the bins last night. It was like the first time in I don't know how long. Um, you had, let's just get to it. I'll go to number three first. The penalty, Brad Guzan. It was a moment of what were you thinking? The ball took a weird bounce, or you misjudged it, whatever you want to call it. I don't care.
Yeah.
He made a mistake. He made a mistake. In the past, and correct me if I'm wrong, by all means, call me out. In the past, there have been times where we have seen Atlanta United, and I don't just mean this year, I mean in the past like 3 years. Um, you've seen instances like that where somebody makes a mistake and there's nobody there to track back. There's nobody there to help you out.
Yeah.
But last night, for all the criticism that Luis Abram has received over the past couple of years since he's been here, last night, I mean, the guy never gave up on the play. Like you had this really bad mistake by Brad, who I thought otherwise was having a pretty good game actually. Um, Luis Rom comes back, and again, going back to the conversation I had with Donnell last night, like that was a game changing until VAR save. I mean, he tracks back, makes the save. Yes, it was a handball. It was a handball. I'm not going to sit here and try to argue that. I mean, you can talk about, all right, well, he slid, his hand is in a position like that's a natural position for somebody sliding. It doesn't matter. If your arm is anywhere extended outside your body, it's going to be called a handball, period. It doesn't matter that
Especially when it's up in the air.
right. Now, to be fair, if you've ever slid, baseball, soccer, whatever sport, your hand doesn't just stick by your side while you're sliding. Like it's going to be up. You're trying to balance yourself, whatever. But that doesn't matter. In the rules of the game, the laws of the game, it's a handball. Fine with it. It is what it is. But the fact that he did that, the fact that he showed that extra bit of dog and that extra bit of passion to get back there and make the save, that kind of implies my entire point about this match, and just that it was. I think you saw something that you haven't seen a lot of this entire season. Now, I know people are going to be looking at me like, "Hey, you're grasping at straws. Like the game still sucked. You still lost." Well, I get it. I do get it. But I think there are some minor building blocks in this match that maybe you can look at and build on from this point going forward.
Absolutely. It was more than 45 minutes because I think we've said a lot of the time, like it's only 45 minutes that they play and then it's turned off. I mean, there was probably about a good 70 minutes of play from this team. And they had the opportunity. They had a couple opportunities at the end too, which we haven't seen in a while because and I know you just saw it at the end of Austin, but overall, it's usually like when you're dead, you're dead. You're not going to have any opportunities to score. They did it in Austin. They came in, they made a couple subs, they were able to get that point, and just Latte Lath just not being able to score there was just very sad that he wasn't able to do it there. But they were creating some chances, which was good to see. Just again, too little, too late.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I wanted to, yeah, Orlando's whooping Miami right now. By the
Is
way,
it
so
three
that's
nothing
what's
yet?
yeah, yeah. Things are happening with Miami, which I think people are happy about. One of the things that I wanted to do is kind of an interesting um, experiment was look at so we talk about the momentum, right? I said in my three takeaways last night and in my article, which I've already been cooked for on the internet. Um,
I heard I watched listened to your three takes this morning, and you brought that you were already getting cooked. I'm like, it's only been out for like an hour.
yeah, well, it was
Doesn't take
happening the
long.
moment I posted the article. So I have just pulled up, and I haven't looked at it yet. I'm not going to look at it until we do this experiment.
All
Um,
right.
we talk about the eye test, right? We talk about the way that the team looks. We talk about momentum. I felt I'm going to get cooked. I know it's coming. I felt that last night was the first game this entire season that Atlanta United played a consistent 90 minutes of soccer. I'm not saying that they were consistently great. I'm not saying they were consistently like good, but there were natural ebbs and flows of the momentum in this game that you expect to see in a soccer match, right? There was not the 25 minutes of good soccer and then poop like that,
Yeah.
right? It wasn't that crap show where it was like, all right, we this looks good. Hey man, we got something to hold on to, and then boom, all of a sudden the team just stops playing. There was not that moment last night. Now, I think Philly in the first 5 minutes or so had the momentum. They had a really good shot that Brad had to be called on to save. And then from then on, it switched over to Atlanta. Atlanta was pushing. You had the Pedro Amador, volley that would have been a goal had it not been for the goalkeeper. A little bit later on, you had Jamal Tiare's header that missed by like a half an inch.
Yeah.
You had Brooks Lennon's shot that was high. It wasn't on target, but it was a good opportunity. You had stuff happening, right? Then you come out of the half and you come off maybe a little slow. little bit on the wrong foot, and ultimately you're getting kind of, you're bending and bending and bending, and then ultimately it was that penalty that was the breaking moment. But you still kind of fought your way, at least momentum wise, back into you were still creating chances. There were a couple of counterattacking opportunities that, I mean, they were embarrassing in the end result, but the fact that you made them happen in the first place was an improvement over some of the really silly looking counterattacking moments that we've seen with this team. So I say all that to say, I want to share
Well, I guess
the
I still don't know where you were being cooked because I mean the first half it went back and forth. There were periods of time where Atlanta was attacking and then it was back and forth. So that's just normal soccer. I think the first half there was nothing that was completely off, right? It was like one team's got some momentum, kept going back and forth. It didn't get too consistent at one point for one team. I was just like, like they're dominating. And then you got to again the 20 minutes of the attack, or maybe 15 ish, where yeah, I mean Philadelphia took over right to start. It was what you expected Philadelphia to look like, what they look like in Philadelphia a few weeks ago, and then after that, it was right back again to back and forth. Atlanta was getting opportunities, and Philadelphia was transitioning forward, and then they had some opportunities. So I don't, like I said, I mean, I think it's just back and forth most of the game, but besides the where the goal happened.
well, and that's kind of what I said, and I put out a tweet last night, like right at the end. Of course, like my article said some things as well on scarfsandspikes.com, but then also like I put out a tweet that said like I actually feel like barring the really nasty mistakes, this was some of the better soccer that we've seen Atlanta play. That's why I go back to what I said in the beginning. People are just pissed off because team's not winning, and that's totally valid. It's totally valid. Um, you get to the point where it's like, hey man, we don't need moral victories, we need wins, and that's absolutely true. But I think from a analysis standpoint, I got to look at, all right, well, the past, like Austin wasn't great. Like you had 25 minutes of decentness, but then it was a crap show after that, and then you just happened to snag a goal at the end. Chicago was awful, like it was bad. And then you go all the way back to the last win that Atlanta had, and there has been no consistency in terms of just like halfway decent soccer. So that's where people are kind of getting at me saying like, well, no, like the fact that we have to look at, this was Alexei Miranchuk's, which we'll get into that in a minute. In my opinion, this was one of Alexei Miranchuk's best games, actually, but it's still just mediocre in general because you still lost 1-0, like at home. Um, but I want to get into really quick. This is my experiment. What you said, what I just said, kind of the momentum. Let's see what FOTMob's momentum chart has to say. Tell me, does this seem accurate to you? All right. Let's see, third third through the fifth minute. That was when Philly kind of stepped on the gas a little bit, and then look, it's all Atlanta from a good portion of the first half, and then it's kind of back and forth, and then you go into the end of the half, and it's significantly in Atlanta's favor. I mean,
Yeah.
this was the Pedro Amador chance. This was Jamal Tiare's chance. And then, of course, Philly bounced back. They're a good team. They're top of the East for a reason.
But
Um,
how long's that time where that blue's going crazy?
right here,
Yeah, all that blue, that whole area there where really you
this
start seeing
is the
Atlanta
final
45th. Okay.
final 3 minutes of the half and halftime, and then going into the second half all the way up to the goal, which was in the 59th minute. So that was
Okay.
all Philly, but then they bounced back. So I mean, this kind of fits in with what we were saying, right? Like
Yeah.
it was up and down. There was no now. As an example, let's go back and look at let's say Atlanta versus Chicago. Let me just do it this way because I'm curious. Like because people, they've had their opinions about it. Look at this chart. Look at how little there is for Atlanta in this entire match. Look at that. Freaking
Yeah.
Mount Everest over here. I mean, but it implies everything that you kind of see, right? Like Chicago, that game was unwatchable almost. It was so bad. Um,
And it was boring because Chicago wasn't even that good either. So it was just kind of watching two mediocre teams play.
yeah. So, I say all that to say, I mean, here's the Austin one look. I mean, this again, this is kind of what we saw, mostly
All the
Austin.
green, yeah.
Yeah. So, I'll jump back to us now. You know, I felt like this was a more balanced match, and I definitely want to get to the chat too because I know everybody's got their opinions about Miggy, Marinchuk, the team, blah blah blah. I just feel like last night at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, you as a team take away all the other crap from this season, and I know that's difficult, but try to put this as one game in a bubble. Atlanta United played a game where they had an opportunity to score 2 or 3 goals and make it 3-0 in the first half. All right, and being fair, maybe 2 or 3 to 1 because Philly had a really good opportunity as well. Then you go into the second half, you give up a ridiculously stupid, wild penalty, and that's their goal on the night. And they're top of the East, and you're at the bottom. You're just above Montreal. You're third in the supporters. Sorry, bottom 3 in the supporter shield standings. You're in the relegation zone if we're in Europe.
Or you're in the spork zone, or
You're
the
in the
wooden
sports zone.
spoon, or the wooden spork.
Yeah, but you came out last night and you more or less went toe to toe with the top of the East. To me, that's an improvement. Moral victory, yes. You still got to get points. But I want to see improvement, and I felt like last night was an improvement.
I agree. And what you're saying about Mernchuk is true. Like it was one of his better games. He didn't, he created a couple opportunities. It just didn't. Nothing happened. Now that's okay. But still, when you're looking at the resume long term and what you need out of that position, I'm it doesn't change my mind much. Now it's an improvement. He can't go anywhere tomorrow. He can't go anywhere in a week. He's got some time here until the window opens in July. So let's see what happens on Sunday against Cincinnati. Does it get better? Does it improve? Because what you need to start seeing is you need to start seeing some consistent lineups to hopefully get this team a little bit of chemistry. It's got to be very difficult when everything's just in and out of the lineup, where you're moving things around and no one can really get some momentum. Matt Edwards is getting a little bit. I think. I mean, he might be getting a significantly more amount of time depending on the formation and everything, and also how Brooks Lennon's doing. But it definitely, yeah, you're right. Ignore everything else. You're not complaining too much about it. If this is the season opener and that's your first seeing of him this season, you're going to go, okay,
Yeah.
not the worst.
Yeah. And I understand you can't do that, right? Like there's much more on top of it. This was one little piece of the puzzle. But I mean, I see like in the chat, like Dylan saying, a $50 million offense that can't score is a huge indictment. I mean, you're absolutely right. Like you spent a ton of money. You spent a crap ton of money. It's got to result in goals. It has to result in wins. And Dyla, you mentioned something Dyla said last night when we talked to him in the press conference that not one time this season, and I don't even think I realized this as much of a magnifying glass as we put on the team. There's not been one time this entire season that they've had the same back line. And I started getting flashbacks of Gonzalo Pineda in his time where it was just like so many injuries and you couldn't get the same lineup to save your life. I do think that if there is one set of positions in a lineup that you really need to be consistent, it's your back line. And Atlanta hasn't had that. But then you look at the formation. I feel like when they play with the back 3 or back 5, whatever you want to call it, to me it looks more like a 3-4-3 than it does like a 5-3-2 or whatever. But it doesn't matter. You play with 3 center backs, and it allows you more opportunity to get up the field to a degree, but then maybe your attack suffers a little bit, but you've been more defensively sound. The alternative is you play the back four and you're leaking goals left and right, and your attack is you're getting into the final third, but then you're just stopping. You're not doing anything once you get there, and there's been no balance in between, and that's where Dyla has got to figure out. I do feel like the way that they played last night, though, with the back three, they created opportunities. I mean, we just talked about the momentum, right? The map, like you had chances to put this game away in the first half. In the first 25 minutes, you could have been up 2-3-0 easy. $50 million is supposed to score the goals, not miss them by inches. And I understand Jamal Tiare was out there. I thought Jamal Tiare put in a great shift, but he's not Latte Lath either. And you got to think that some of those opportunities, I feel like maybe Latte Lath would have finished. But then at the same time, I mean, you had counterattacking opportunities with him and Miggy, but they didn't finish either. So, man, it's a conundrum. And I understand why Dyla was so frustrated last night in the press conference. He was pissed. He was pissed. And he just kept going. Like, I feel like he just needed a lot to get off his chest, man. It was rough.
It's the same feelings that he constantly keeps giving. And it's like, I need more. I need more from these guys. When is that more going to happen? When is the fight going to happen? And that's been a conversation we've had for years. I mean, obviously, uh, I mean, Jay Fortune, I mean, that guy is going to fight for his teammates. Absolutely. And the kids are as well. But it's some of these guys that have been around here or some of these newer guys, it's just that there's not a fight in this team. And it's been said. It's been said for a very long time. Players go down, nobody goes and helps them out. They just let it go, or they don't get in the face of the player that took him down. And Philadelphia is a Philadelphia bully type team. They are close to what the Philadelphia Flyers are. They could get dirty at sometimes. They could get cheap, and we knew that was going to happen. And Atlanta had some trouble with it. And that's where I keep going to, eventually as they continue to make this roster, I don't think there's a lot of players that just come from overseas that are like that. Like there's some MLS players, guys that have been here for a long time that know the league and understand it, come in there and they know the assignment. Jeff Larentowicz knew the assignment. Parkhurst, Garza, like those guys would get in people's faces and stick up for their teammates. And you just don't see it with a lot of these guys, unfortunately.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I wanted to before we jump into to me what was one of the bigger aspects of this match. One of the things I put in my article last night was Matt and Jay Marinchuk. Got to give them credit. Like all these guys that I feel really showed well. But before we get into that full topic, you were kind of touching on it. Matt Edwards late in the second half yesterday, and I think maybe it was Victory that kind of put it in the chat, but a handful of people are talking about dominated the first half and then kind of fell off a little bit in the second half. But more like even beyond that, Matt Edwards got into it with a handful of Philly players, and I don't know what all it showed on the broadcast, but in the booth, what we saw was Matt Edwards chirping back at Philly because in the first half, I actually thought Atlanta out Philly'd Philly. In my opinion, I thought that they were very physical. They got under Philly's skin. They drew a couple of yellow cards. I thought it was great. The second half, you have this incident with Matt Edwards, and he is not backing down, and I love that about Matt. But nobody, again, really comes to his defense. I'm trying to think. There was one player that kind of stepped up. Maybe it was Slish. Maybe it was Alexi. It was one of the two that kind of stepped in and kind of pushed him away to kind of keep him from getting more in trouble, and then kind of put themselves in between Matt and the Philly players. But that was kind of it. There was nobody else that really went up and said, "Hey, man, y'all want to gang up on our guy? Let's go." There was never
Yeah.
that moment, and that's disappointing. Like in so many ways, that's so disappointing. if you're going to get a yellow card, man, for dissent, for whatever, that's the time to do it. That's the time to do it. Like, and it goes back to your simple point. Like, show some fight. Don't let another team come into your house and even exude the look that they're walking all over you. And at the end of that game last night, that's kind of what I felt with Matt. I felt like he was just kind of on an island by himself, fighting three different guys.
Yeah, I don't disagree. It's just again, I mean, you could take Ronnie out of this and insert Pineda, same thing. Now it's a lot of the same players that are here. So do you expect a change? Can the coach can the coach change that about a player? Can a coach make them fight as a team? And I don't know. And maybe it's just a lot of it has to do with just chemistry with these guys. I mean, there's obviously some chemistry issues on the field. I
Yeah,
don't know. We don't get to know what they do outside here, or how they get along and everything like that. But from the way that you see them rarely stick up for each other, and then you see how they rarely get things right on the field, uh, you start writing your own stories. And people have been writing their own stories about this team since, unfortunately, the start of the year.
yeah. I put out the tweet last night of some of the comments that Ronnie had in the press conference, and I didn't mean to post a picture that made him look sad, but I will say he did look sad. That was not intentional. Um, he was upset in the press conference for sure. If you've seen it, you'll know, especially near the end when he kind of just went off. Um, but it's been so divisive in so many ways. Like somehow that tweet got retweeted by Eric Ronaldo talking about some stuff, and then that got retweeted by Alexi Lawless, and that started some back and forth between them. And I'm like, hey man, I just want Atlanta United to be good. um, we're not talking about like sending Ronnie back to Europe or anything like that. It's just it was a very interesting kind of conversation. But I say all that to say like the opinions on what this team needs to do differently vary massively. And Ronnie Dyla is the one that's got to figure it out. And he said last night, I'm here to build something. I'm here, essentially saying I'm here to stay. But I'm like, dude, what can you do? What can you do differently at this point?
Well, I heard that quote as well, and sometimes you get scared that when they say that, then the next morning you wake up and then there's a tweet that
Yeah.
that the builder has left the building. It's I with what's going on with this team right now. I mean, it's really up to Garth Lagerwey and gang to find out. Is he the guy? Oh my gosh, what a banger! Sorry,
It's always
Luanga
LAFC.
just scored a
Yeah.
oh beauty! Holy crap! Way outside the box. Golazo! All right, I don't remember what I was saying. Oh, he's got to make the decision. Did you? Because he has said, and I think I've said this before as well. You have said that you at the beginning of the season you gave your team a great lineup, and you got your team a new coach, and we're aiming for top four. That's that's what you had. You thought that you had that. You Garth had excitement and confidence that that is how this team was going to finish. And now it's all just down. You're at the bottom of the table. You have not won many games at home. You're not getting points at home. So what is it? Is it what you get? Is it the coach that you hired? Is it the DPS that you brought in? Because remember, this is not Chris Henderson's. Uh, we'll call it a mess. This is not his mess that he's created. Pretty much all three of these DPs were brought in or were being worked on before he came in. The coach was also being worked on before he came in. So this is pretty much on him of what this team's at. Like Chris is just in the corner going, I ain't doing nothing. I'm just trying. I'm just trying to get an opportunity. I mean, the only thing that he's really done is move on from Sean De Silva, which I think was the debate about that. I still think it was a good move because there's no guarantee that anyone would want him past the when the new window opens. So if you
Yeah.
have an opportunity to get rid of a guy that wasn't producing, I know he's one of your rare, left wingers that you have, natural left wingers, but he wasn't doing anything. So that was fine to me. But what is it? But what is it, Garth? Is it see all the above? Or is it the players? And if that's the players, then how are you going to fix this? Because you just brought in two DPs, you large amount of transfer fees, you've given them long contracts. I mean, Runchuk just got here as well, a little bit longer, but his value is way down now than what you brought him in for. What are you going to admit is what's the part that's not working here, and how quick can you fix it? Because ultimately, because we had on Spaces yesterday, we had a few people that came on. Edgar came on talking, comparing us to the Galaxy a little bit, and then we also had
Thanks,
Will
Edgar.
from MLS Moves in there, and he was calling for Gar's job, and I shut that down immediately because he said, well, he brought all these players in. And I said, I understand that. Like, he had to take the general manager position. Now, he did hire the coach and he did bring in these players, but that was just temporary. And then he was moving most of these, job duties over to Chris. But if his name was not Garth Lagerwey, if the president of this team was not Garth Lagerwey, you're very rarely ever talking about the team president and trying to fire the team president. That just does not happen. Most people don't even know who their team president is, I am sure. They
Yeah.
probably know the general manager, they know the coach, but they don't know the team president. And that's fine. But it for us it is because he was a, executive of the year. I mean, obviously great records. So that is why his name gets brought up, and also because he built a lot of this team. He also had to clean up a lot of this team. He also had to shore up the scouting, the analytics, which we're still not sure about the scouting. Everyone's still wondering why there's certain people in scouting still there when things haven't worked out well. That's a whole other story for another day. But now you've got for Garth, he's got to get it right here. He's got to help Chris figure this out and how to get this team going. Because yeah, you could say Montreal sucks. You could say that the Galaxy are at pure trash right now. And look, they had some injuries. I get it. Okay, we didn't. I mean, they also gave their coach an extension, which is still wild to me. But here we are. But this team was the team everywhere that everybody was talking about, and all the money spent. And it's not just on Latte Loth. It's not just on Miguel. It's on Maranchuk as well. Your centerpiece. And it was. I mean, that was like. I mean, he probably had tears in his eyes when he got him signed there because that's how he sounded to us, was just giddy that he brought him on. And right now, it's a failure. It's an absolute failure. So for him, with all of this, he's got to start. He's got to start figuring something out now. He's got to get ready for the summer. And with that, I've said it before. You're going to start needing. Um, you are going to need some bold moves here. Some very bold moves in the next transfer window to get this team back up and going. And if it's too late, you have to start preparing for next season.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of players on their way out at the end of this year, which is great. So it gives you some room. But man, you gotta start getting right now.
Yeah. I think from a roster building standpoint, the one thing, you thought about who all was on Spaces last night and kind of the chat. And if y'all have never been on our Spaces, like, you should go. It's free therapy. First of all, this is kind of an extension of that. But after the final whistle, Tommy cooks it up, and you get in there and you can chat. Um, I don't know of anybody. Correct me if I'm wrong. Let me know because I just don't know. I don't know of anybody going into this season before the first game, before the first ball was kicked of the actual season. I don't know of anybody that said, yeah, Atlanta made mistakes with the roster. They spent a lot of money, but it seems like what they tried to build was spot on.
I think the
It
only
made sense.
criticism that we had, though, sorry, I think the only criticism we really had of this roster was the left wing,
Oh, for sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I mean,
and
like the ones
that
that
was
came in.
more because you you thought Saba was they were gonna throw Saba there, and was it actually going to work or not? We don't know, but it didn't. And then
Yeah,
you had Sean De Silva, and he's hoping that his injury last season what was holding him back, and there was still nothing there. So that was probably the main criticism because you had a lot of depth in the midfield. Brought Click in, you had some real good room here to grow the team, and on defense you got some young kids ready to play. Brooks Lennon's out. Okay, we're gonna start Edwards. See how he does. So that was the only real hole going into this. And then obviously the question about how quick can this team gel to start the season because a lot of them missed the preseason.
yeah, yeah. And I think that's been kind of a consistent concern. But as far as like Miggy being brought in, Latte Loth being brought in, the only other kind of conversation that we had in the beginning of the season was, well, Alexi, he had a few months. He needed some players around him. And once he gets these players around him, it'll unlock him. And that obviously hasn't happened. But I don't know of anybody that just went into the season saying like, well, these were the wrong moves. Um,
There
I
was
wanted to jump back.
criticism, though. I mean, real quick. I mean, there was criticism saying, like, I know talking to Danny and Chris, and it wasn't, it wasn't. I don't think it was really trolling with them, but it was, how does a team that was so mediocre until they actually made the play-in game, because they were mediocre.
Yeah.
There was nothing special about them. They got very lucky that they got in on the last day of the season. So you you sneak in, but do these two DPs coming in fix everything? And that's what I think a lot of people thought was going to happen, was that there was going to be an opportunity that this was going to fix everything, and it hasn't. You've actually gotten worse. You've gotten way worse than what you were before.
But that's the thing. Nobody expected the team to be worse, right?
Yeah,
Like maybe other problems crop up here and there, but no, I don't think anybody expected just the Atlanta United that beat Miami in the playoffs last year to then get Miguel Almiron and Latte Loft added into the roster to then be worse than they were in the playoffs last year.
yeah,
Forget about forget about the regular season last year. Like you thought, all right, well, this is something to build on, and it hasn't panned out that way. And I'm going to go back to like Victory was saying, I don't know in what, and this is just because it's been a minute. He was saying I was making excuses for somebody. I'm not saying I was or wasn't. I'm just not sure what that's in reference to. But he said, "Do you think it helps that the players are being called soft?" I don't know. We had this conversation a lot when Gonzalo Pineda was here, and a lot of people complained. A lot of fans complained that every press conference was the same thing. It was, I'm not going to um, call out players publicly, blah blah blah. And now you've got Ronnie Dyla who comes in, and he's pretty straightforward. He's pretty to the point. He's blunt. Now he doesn't say, "Hey, uh, you know, Saba, you had a terrible game," but he did come out and say like the reason Saba hasn't been getting as many minutes is because of performance issues, blah blah blah. Last night he went off on the team and said they're too soft. They're you know, in moments like this, you can either be sad or you can be angry, and I want them to be angry. I don't want them to be sad. I want them to be angry. Um, and he kind of went in on the players, and implied essentially that they're too soft. He used Philly as a good example of what a team looks like when they have an identity. He said that in the press conference.
Yeah.
So in that sense, like to answer Victory's question, like no, I think they need to be. I think it needs to be called out. But the problem is then, what do you do as a coach to fix that? Is it just inherently unfixable? Is it players that just don't have that, as we say, dog in them?
A dog.
And I don't know that that's true. Um, but man, like I just feel like some people just have it more in them. I'll go back to the Matt Edwards thing, and then we can jump into the next part of the conversation. But like, in no world would I ever see one of my teammates getting picked on, bullied on the pitch, and me not step in and go in on somebody. And I saw Brian's comment a little while ago. Kai Wagner not getting the crap beat out of him in this match, like it is a travesty. Somebody has to go in and set an example and be that guy that says, "Hey, dude, when you play against this team, don't fuck with us." And nobody's done that yet.
We're sorry, Sydney, if you're listening, that he said the F word.
It's only one. It's
I
only one.
apologize. I apologize. We're still okay. We're still a Disney movie.
Yeah, we're still
No
good. We're
more.
good. We're good.
No more.
But that's the thing though. Like, where is that? And like the fact that Matt Edwards, and it's always the academy slash twos guys because they came up playing against guys that were twice their age, and being told, "Nah, don't back down. Go up against these guys." That's how it was. And it's always them that are standing up. It's the Noah Cobbs, it's the Matt Edwards, it's the Jay Fortunes, it's the Sean Quees. Like it's all these guys, Luke Brennan. Hey, they're gonna fight anybody. Well, where the hell is everybody else? And that's where, like, to me, that goes a long way in saying, hey, man, despite Atlanta maybe not getting the results on the pitch, they're there for each other. They got each other's back, and that's one of the ways that you can build chemistry. I want to see more of that. And I know that this game is way more than just, fighting back when somebody wrongs you. Well, I get that. But like it would go a long way to their morale, as low as it is right now, to know that, hey man, those guys, the rest of the guys that are here on the pitch with me, they got my back if something goes wrong. And I'm not seeing that to the same degree. And I hate that. It's got to be there. And yes, you can pull that out of somebody. I've seen it happen, who may not otherwise have it in them. But some people just don't have it in them. And I don't want to think that anybody on this team is in that category, because we've seen it for most of them before at some point.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the physicality in this league is a little bit more. I mean, you've heard players say that coming into MLS, it's a lot more physical than um, some of where they've come from before. I get that, but I think that when depending on how you grew up playing, or your early coaches, sometimes that's they don't. Obviously hockey is way different, but like you couldn't fight in high school. There were no fights that were allowed. But if somebody pushed the guy the wrong way, our coach expected us to get in their face and make sure. I mean, there would be guys surrounding him. Couldn't take a punch, couldn't do that, but you made sure that you were up in their face telling them try it again and see what happens. Here, you talk about these guys, the kids that are there that are brought up. I mean, it's a little bit different here.
Yeah.
It's a little bit different in the United States, I think, as far as that goes, because we haven't seen a lot of players that have come from overseas that have been um, physical. That's what I'm saying, like with the MLS players. A lot of these guys that are MLS lifers, they know the assignment. They know what this league is like. They've been here for a long time. They know what to expect game in, game out. They know when Philadelphia comes to town, they are going to push you around. And they know that we are not going to let them push us around. I mean, you saw with Jeff Lorenowitz. You
Yeah.
saw that in games. Like, oh,
Choke slam.
you threw Ambrose down to the ground. that's my assistant here. You can't touch my assistant. And then he goes and throws him down. Like, you need to start getting these guys, because it's until you start fixing that, because again, who's scared of Atlanta United? Well, you could talk about this team being or Mercedes-Benz being a fortress. That's a whole other thing there. But a part of being that fortress is being
Hmm.
scared of going on the field with Atlanta United, and that's for multiple reasons: physicality, the ability to score, and then the other part of it is the fans. The fans are also a big part of it, and the fans are the only ones right now that are doing their thing.
Everything
Because
they can.
again, Bravo. I said this on Spaces. There was a point where it was like the 85th minute, and the ball was near the I think it was behind Brad, and they were, or no, I forget where it was, but they were like, everybody needs the team needs us right now. Let's get going. And then you heard the volume go up. It wasn't that I turned the volume up on the TV, it was they turned the volume up there. So the fans are the ones that are doing what they need to do. And look, the question is really going to start becoming, because I see a lot of coach talk in the chat and everything. It's ultimately, is Ronnie going to be the fix here long term? That's the real question. Is he the long term answer? And I think right now, I think the answer is no. And you could look at his MLS record. You could look at some of his more recent stops, and it being very extremely short term. Like, that's what I said. Like, if he does not make it here to finish the season, I mean, that's maybe three teams back to back to back. I don't remember
I think so.
where it's been an extremely short stint. And we talked about it before the season about what he did with New York. And while it was impressive that he was able to get them in, that team struggled very similarly to Atlanta United. Unable to score goals, went on a huge, huge losing streak until they came to Mercedes-Benz Stadium and scored a banger of a goal. And then all of a sudden it was off to MLS Cup. So I look at all this and say, do you start looking? Do you start looking for a manager? And I don't know, because that's the thing with Garth Lagerwey. He said that he is very slow with what he does, and that we are going to be extremely frustrated with him at times regarding him being slow with that. I don't think he could afford waiting waiting much longer here. You could wait till the end of the season and do that. Like, and look, there's nothing wrong with that as a team either, to be able to move on from a coach. Like, it happens in the NFL. They bring in coaches, it just doesn't work out. A lot of times they'll wait till the end of the year, or maybe a couple games before the season. But just sometimes it's not a right fit, and that's what he's got to figure out here. And I don't envy him on these decisions that he has to make, because ultimately they're because of him and what he's created on this team. But man, I mean, the you look at the his history, and I know he won MLS Cup and then he moved on, but still, it was kind of similar to, not similar, because they were better consistently going into the playoffs. But I mean, they were able to get um, Atlanta United was able to have a huge surge at the end of the season, but that was obviously way, way, way shorter than what New York did. They won a lot of games to end that season, or were pretty consistent, at least, of getting points. So a little bit different of a situation here, but I just don't know, man. I just don't know how you can, if things don't get better. I don't think there's any way you can go into next season and expect fans to be excited to go to Mercedes-Benz Stadium when you're running it back. And there's not, like, legit, like, people say Pineda. Well, he held on to Pineda. Like, there were a ton of injuries, insane injuries to that team that year. And then the next year, while the season was dragged on for a little while, he did get them into the playoffs. He did get them to a game 3. and then they went on there. But the person, so just to lead in, I mean, Will came in and was talking about a friend of ours. I don't have my driver's license to prove that, because I'm not from Atlanta. I do come there to party. So I guess maybe Jim was talking about me as well. But Jim Curtin there. Now someone mentioned, I think it was Omar put it in our Discord that he's actually rejected us twice. I don't remember the second time that they tried to reach him when he was still with Philly, and then after Philly, after they let him go, we tried to talk to him again. I don't remember that story. If I missed it, that's my bad. But it's a conversation, and then Edgar chimed in and said, LAFC he needs a coach next year. They could just start prepping to bring him in. Is that a guy you want? I don't know, man. I don't get paid the big bucks for this. I just hang out with you. I hang out with you and have fun.
I mean, this goes back to that entire conversation that we've had at its core, whose fault is it? Is it the players? Is it front office? Is it the coaching staff? All the above? What variation of all the above? And I go back to what I said a minute ago. Nobody thought that this roster was bad going into the season. I mean, every roster
We
has
say that
holes.
every year, though, Tyler. I'm sorry, I got to interrupt you. There's, I think it was last season. We're like, oh, this team is deeper than what they were the previous year.
Mm-hmm.
We're another year in Pineda's system. We just came off of playing some pretty good games against Columbus. A good game against Columbus. The other two were shit. But still, it was like you have a deep lineup here, and we're going to be better. And what happened? The exact same thing that we are talking about today, we talked about last season. And it wasn't just us, it was other teams, except our friend that was getting her hair done that said Atlanta United's going to suck this year. And she was pretty damn close to being right. But everybody else thought that team last season was going to be good.
But what's the common denominator there, though? Like going back to the season coming into last season, everybody thought, all right, it's going to be great. You got Sean Silva, you got Tristan Miyumba, you got Jamal Tiare. I mean, maybe exclude him in terms of that conversation, but like they came in and they were on fire, and it was like, all right, this is great. This is great. And then you got Bartosz Slish going into the season, and it was like, all right, this dude's a highly rated midfielder. He's won 4 cups in a row in Poland. All right, cool. And then what happens? Then you go into this season, and it's like, all right, you got Miranchuk in the summer. Maybe he needs a little bit of time. You got Miggy coming back. You got Latte Laugh. And then what happens? It's not that they went out and found a handful of, no offense, USL League 2 players that they just thought this will work. They went out and found guys that should, on paper, fit. Should. Now, you can get it wrong. You're going to get it wrong. But the players have to stand up and do something different. Now, yeah, it's on Ronnie to draw that out of them. But these are professional athletes. Sometimes it's as simple as they just suck together. It could be that simple, because there's millions of excuses. And I see a lot of them in the chat right now. Like, it's the coaching, it's the front office, it's the players, it's the mentality, it's players out of position, it's whatever. At the end of the day, you have 29 other teams. Maybe we'll take away a couple of those. 26 other teams in the league that are doing better than you, with way less money spent than you, with way less on paper talent than you. And as a player, you should take that personally. You should. I mean, yes, it's on Ronnie, but it's also on you as players. Like, y'all got to come together and figure out what the fuck is going on. Like, figure it out. Like, make
That's
this
two.
work.
That's two.
Figure
We're
it out.
PG-13 now.
Like, figure it out. I don't know what else you can do differently. You're stuck here until the summer, unless you go out and you find a random free agent that you want to bring in. Figure it out. Like, you got to dig inside you and find out a way to get the motivation. And that's the other one, motivation. I don't know what it is, but sometimes the players just don't work together. And right now, it seems like the players don't work together.
Well, and like I don't know if I agree with this because I mean, and maybe I just don't count as press because I'm technically not press. I'm just a podcaster that hangs out in my basement while you guys do all the fun stuff. But I think that we've gone against a lot of things that have been said, especially with Pineda. Like
Yeah.
when Pineda was around, I mean, he was saying a lot of stuff that we just did not believe at all there, and that's just the honest truth. It was not. He was just not it with the team there.
Yeah.
But again, and we said this in the lineups on Saturday. You have 3 games at home. You need 9. This time you actually need 9. Last time we argued about it forever. Well, is it we need 9 points or we need 7 points or 6 points, whatever. And the situation is. Well, things are dire. And you go on this road trip, you go on this 6-game road trip, and it's the same stuff. I don't know how you can bring out this manager and say that it's okay. It's okay that it's so bad that he's here. I just don't see that. Now, what would you do in that situation? Because people are questioning, who takes over the team. Valentino isn't hiding in a locker or in a Money in the Bank briefcase. You don't have him ready to go. But man, it's going to get real difficult in the summer on that return match in July. I think it's July, like right.
I think so.
Yeah, right in like the beginning of July to bring if the results are the same. Say you get 1 point out of this, and then you go on the road and maybe you get a win, maybe a win or a couple draws there. It means you're at the bottom of the table. You're right there. You hope Montreal and the Galaxy didn't figure things out. I just don't know how you could do that. And like that would be the perfect time to do it too, I guess. Well, for returning there. But it would say a lot, I guess. Because if not, then you got to come out. If you bring him on, and I know we talk about Garth Lagerwey, not saying things. I think if he does bring him out, then you've got to call out yourself. This lineup was not good enough. I didn't set this up. I don't think that I set Ronnie up for success. I need to make this team better. Take ownership of it and get all the pressure off of him. Because that's, we talk about this all the time. What would he say? Well, if you truly believe that Ronnie's your coach beyond this season, then you need to come out and you need to admit that you didn't set him up for success. Am I wrong? Because that would take I know realistically, like it doesn't fix things, but it's better than saying nothing when you have a terrible record and you come back home and you still got the same coach there.
Yeah. So then my question would be, maybe not a question, this is more playing devil's advocate, but you get through this cluster of away matches, you get to the summer, you have the window, which is, in the grand scheme of things, the better window, right? Because this is when all your European players in the off season, you can make things happen. You now have Ronnie Deila in place for X amount of months, and it's been a rough X amount of months. But now he has a little bit of say in what he says he needs. And if he says, "Hey, I need 3 players with this expected dog in them," you go and get that, or do you just try to start back over with a new coach and then try to hope that what you have there works? Because on one hand, this roster is a coach's dream, but on the other
Is it?
hand, it's not working out.
Can you
So
admit that Miguel Almiron is not a top 3 winger?
no, not yet.
Tommy's left the chat.
We'll get to the end of the season and we'll talk about it. But I'm
There's
saying, like, what team would not want to have Miggy or Latte Life really on their team? Like, what coach would not be excited about that? And then you look at
I
other.
think a coach would want a real number 10.
Okay, well, that's a different conversation for sure. I
But I
totally
mean,
agree.
that's part of accepting the deal, is looking at the entire roster, looking at the contracts long term, everything like that. And right now, your number 10 has been not good. They've tried to move him around. It got a little bit better, but overall, he has not done much in this league. And in a league where you need a number 10, you need to have some speed there. You don't have it. You got a
Yeah,
guy named Saba there that can't even get into the lineup, and it's not and it's because I don't believe that he I'm I just think it's complete bullshit, that he's got to work his way in there. The guy's been playing out of position all season, okay, and um, we knew that he wasn't good on the left. They hoped that they were going to be able to turn around. We've seen that project; it hasn't worked. But what else are you going to do with your DP player, Miguel Almiron? You could put him at the 10. It looks okay. A little bit better on the transition, on the counter. But I don't think that's the right answer either. So you've got a highly paid player in Saba, a highly paid player in Miguel Almiron, and they're in the same position. Maybe you move on from Saba if that's the long-term thing. If you're going to keep Almiron there, maybe you move on from Saba. Saba's got some value.
yeah. I mean, if you're dead set on using Miggy as a winger, but then you go back to the game last night, Miggy and Alexi and Saba were on the pitch at the same time in that formation, and it actually worked. I mean, to a degree, right? I'm not talking about the goals, but you created opportunities. You looked much more cohesive. So you can make it work, but and I get like Tequila saying I need a number 10 to be more physical than fast. I mean, there's the fine balance there for sure. But I also think, like, if you look at the overarching scheme of things in MLS, number 10s aren't as highly sought after as they once were.
Yeah.
This is not South America. This is not some teams or some leagues in Europe where the number 10, your attacking midfielder, that is the absolute most important player in the attack on the team or on the team in general. It's not always about that. Teams play out wide. They do things differently. They don't necessarily focus just on that one guy who's going to make a difference on the team. And that's the thing. If you're going to build your team around a number 10, especially nowadays, you better hope you can find a guy like Thiago Almada who can control the game in every way possible, or you get a guy like Miggy who can hit on the counter, who can hit, in transition. Let's see, Victory's comment. Top three. I'm sticking to it. Top three winger. Miggy in MLS.
He said,
You don't have to put
talk
it
to
in.
him at the end of the season. That's actually his answer.
We'll be
Talk
there.
to him at the
We'll be
end of
there.
the year.
Still top three. But no, I mean, there's other ways to make this thing work. And I see, like, people saying, like, this is not, a top whatever roster. Yeah, I mean, with the way they're playing right now, no, they're not. But a good majority of these players, I think, and I've seen this comment pop up, could probably drop into another team in MLS and probably perform better than they are right now.
Yeah. And then if they're going to play better somewhere else, it's also got to be on the roster, how the roster was made, and also how they're coached.
And that's what I'm saying. It's everybody. It's on everybody. It's not just one now, but it's on everybody. But I do think this 11 group of players, whatever it may be at any given time, is better than what they're showing and can be better than what they're showing.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if this lineup and the coach are there. And right now, you gotta if you're Ronnie D, I don't remember. People keep saying that the rumors is that he's safe. I don't know where people keep hearing this from. Um, I don't. I just don't know who's where that came from. Maybe it's like one of those things on like Reddit where someone's like, I know Garth's cousin that met them at Thanksgiving that said this. I don't believe that his job can be safe until the end of the year. I just don't. I don't think that it is.
I mean, I don't think anybody with the record that Atlanta has right now could be safe anywhere. I really don't. I mean, but I also think you weigh the risks, and do you cut bait in the middle of the season again, and then go
It's a
back
bad
on the
look.
hunt? It is a
Look,
bad look.
it's a very bad look, and we talked about this when people wanted Pineda gone immediately um, into that second season. And we said, or at least I know that I said, was that you eventually it looks really bad on your organization. Just keep moving on from guys left and right because you went through a very short stint with Frank, and then you brought in Heinze. That was extremely short.
Don't forget about Stephen Glass.
Well, that was another Valentino type situation there.
Yeah.
So you went through two guys extremely quick. But like in a scenario like this, unfortunately, I don't think that it's there's just not enough excuses, I think, for this team here because you know that there's talent on this team. You know that there's talent here. You absolutely know that it's there, but you're not getting the results. So you're going to have to make that decision. I think sooner than later. I think by like I said, by that first game at home, I don't remember who it's against. That's your bar, in my opinion, to say this is it or it's not it. Because, and I hate to bring this conversation up again because we just talked about it last year because people were fighting the same thing. Well, Pineda's on the end of his contract. We could just let him go at the end of the year. All of that. Well, obviously, then it becomes a distraction if we're if everyone starts hearing that Garth Lagerwey's out there trying to bring on a new coach, right? He's out there having lunch with this coach, and there's pictures of him on TMZ. I'm sure Garth's been on TMZ 100 times, but like you see that he's out there looking for a new coach. Obviously, then that just causes chaos everywhere. No, the players know that he's on his way out, and the coach is in an awkward situation. If you get rid of him, then it's open dating. I think it was the Tinder. I think it was the Tinder reference I had. You got to. I mean, you're supposed to divorce your wife before you get on Tinder and start swiping left. Is it left? I think it's left. I've never been on
I
Tinder.
have no idea. Me neither.
Make sure Tina doesn't pop up around here and then start hearing me talking about Tinder. But yeah, I mean, like you can't start courting people without getting rid of that guy, and maybe you got to start courting people here.
I mean, I'm always of the taking away the Tinder
I hold,
reference.
hold hold on. I don't believe this for a moment. They fired Pineda so they could raise season ticket prices. That was already in the works. They don't just plan that out of nowhere. No, absolutely not.
I think a good president slash GM slash whatever title. I think you should have a running list of who's available, who could be available, who would work if the worst happens. I think that's just planning for the future. That being said, before we jump out. Going back to your conversation. All right. If in your opinion, you really have to start looking if it's the coach, if you're saying you move on from Ronnie this season, and you're
Yes.
talking about when they get back from this insane road trip. Looking at the schedule. All right, right
Hmm.
now Atlanta is near the bottom, right? Relegation zone. You have May 25th at home Cincinnati. May 28th, a couple of days later, at home versus Orlando. You have May 31st. You go up to New Jersey for the Red Bulls. Then you have New York City up at Yankee Stadium. Columbus,
Why do I go
Miami.
every year? Why do
I
I
don't
go
know.
to this game every year? Somebody tell me to stop.
I don't know. You should stop. Miami at the end of June. DC, July 5th. All right. Now we're still on the road. Toronto. Then you
Who's
make it
starting
back
to look
home.
good at home?
Yeah. Then you make it back home finally, July 16th versus Chicago.
And the transfer window's open at
Yes.
that time.
So you have, let's see, between now and then, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
8.
8, 8 games, and then you hit Chicago back home. How many points out of 8 games is enough for you in your opinion, as it stands right now? And to give
10.
you an idea, Atlanta
10.
is currently sitting on 11 points and 28th out of 30 teams in MLS.
10.
10 points. So that would bump
I
him
think that's the minimum that he
minimum
needs to get to stay around.
minimum 10. That gets you to 21 points on the season. And as it stands right now, that would still just put you at number 12 overall. That would put you at somewhere around 6th to 7th in the Eastern Conference. And that's 2 months away.
And Jack put here, not going to lie, guys, I'm finding it real hard to watch this team. Everyone is at this moment.
Yeah,
There's nothing
we don't
wrong with
blame
it.
you.
And like this is what happened last year, unfortunately. And you hope that they don't raise the ticket prices again, but you don't know what's going to happen here. Hopefully they're having some emergency meetings to discuss this because it's probably a very hard conversation that they're having right now because you went into it like us, they were expecting to have a good season, right? I don't think they tried to bullshit us and think like, oh yeah, like we'll tell them we're gonna have a good season, it's gonna happen. Like, no, legit. Like I think they all believed this was gonna be a fantastic team this year. Okay. So when you have that discussion year to year, and most teams are raising their prices, like across sports, not MLS, not Atlanta, across sports, ticket prices consistently go up. But man, you got to have it. That's got to be a tough decision because you've already had the conversations, and we have this in our Discord. Join the Discord. The people, I mean, they started the buyback program, and a lot of players, a lot of fans sold their tickets back, and that's because I mean they said they could buy tickets cheaper on the market and get credits for next year, where you hope that it's better. It's the hope. It's the hope that kills you. But like I don't blame it. I don't blame people, because going out to games and everything, it's expensive. It's expensive to go out. Um, for parking, all of that, your booze. You're probably gonna get drunk enough that you're gonna go buy some merch though, even though you're gonna hate wear it throughout the game or the week. Why do I have all this gear? But like that's it. Like that's the hard part that you got to make the decision and what's best for you and what's for them. And this time around, like last year, I mean, a lot of people were like, "Oh, look at all those people that sold their tickets last year, suckers! We got Miguel Almiron back, and we got Latte Loth." And now they're going, "Oh, damn it!" It's like Bill
Yeah,
Murray and Groundhog Day.
over and over again.
It is. So, with that said, is that that's why I said this summer you've got to be aggressive and figure things out. And the other part, I
That
mean,
I
like
agree
what
with.
yeah, but like going back up to what just Grace said real quick is that he wants to have the coach, technical director, building the roster together. Obviously, that gets more difficult if you don't have a coach. If you fire him, because the Marinchuk signing last year was before he stepped on the field was a very controversial subject there. Why do you bring in a DP when you don't have a coach? Well, you still have two DP spots open. You think that, this was our argument, or my argument at least, was like, okay, well, you still got two more you could bring in, and we think that this guy can work with any type of system that we have. That was, I think, what they were probably thinking as well. Any coach would be happy to have Alexi on this team. It's going to work out. It didn't. It didn't. And now you could be running into that exact same scenario, unless you're bringing on Jim Curtin, because he's probably just at home right now watching this game on TV. Look, it's all of this, and again, I say this all the time. We appreciate you guys showing up to spaces, hanging out in this, pre-shows, all of that, the Wednesday show, talking about MLS in general. We do appreciate all of you keep coming back. We're all sickos here, and we want this team to get better. But they've got a lot of work. I think they have
Yeah.
more work I think they have more work now than what they did last summer.
Yeah.
Because now you got guys that are under contract. It was easy just to say, we're going to leave these spots open in the winter. You can't do that right now. You have 3 guys signed long term. So how creative can you get here with this roster? And we got to talk about it too at some point. We won't do it now. But man, how different could this? We talked about it on Spaces. How different if they turned on the buying players for cash, MLS team to MLS team? How possibly different could this team been? Maybe bring on Evander instead of bring on Miranchuk.
Yep. Because I could have seen that move happening for sure.
100%, because you don't have to worry about these guys coming into MLS and understanding, like, if they're good for this league, like, and also with Shorty from Cincinnati,
Lucha.
Acosta, yeah, like Acosta, like these guys fit in this league. You just got to put them on the field.
Yeah.
I mean, this team at the Vander is way different. Way different.
I agree. I totally agree.
It just makes me sad now thinking about it.
Yeah, Derek said, it's group therapy. It really is. I mean, at the end of the day, like, we're
It's
going to
been
cover
group
the
therapy
team.
since we started.
I know,
Why
right?
can't we win?
We're going to cover the team, come hell or high water. But we get it. We try to be a speaker box for all of y'all. We go, we ask questions, we talk with, the coach, with players, ask what we can. I mean, try to give you guys anything we possibly can. At the end of the day, we're fans too, and it freaking sucks. It really does. And unfortunately, that's freaking sports. That's soccer. It is what it is. You can have all the good intentions in the world, and then it just blows up in your face. But it like you said, and like Ted Lasso said, it's the belief that kills you. Maybe something comes good. I've had New York City fans retweeting some of the stuff about Dyla from last night, saying, "Hey, the same thing happened with us," and then we went and won the cup. I mean, it's MLS, so this is a league more than any where the stupid crap like that can happen. And I, just like last year in the playoffs, I would love for this team to be on the correct end of the stupid stuff. We might be having a totally different conversation come the end of the summer. We might be having the same conversation. They might be looking at a different I don't know. I have no idea. But you can't keep, like, getting it wrong. It happens. But you can't get it wrong over and over again. It's got to come good at some point. And unfortunately, we're all in the weeds together, y'all. So we appreciate y'all hanging out with us.
There will be a time, Tyler. Hold on. There will be a time. that after Scarves and Spikes started, that I will be flying into Atlanta for MLS Cup weekend. We will see this team win MLS Cup. We will be partying with everybody until 2, 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning. I'm not flying home the next day. I did that last year, or I did it
Well,
last time they
we
won
go into
MLS
the
Cup.
parade too.
Yeah, I just stay in there and party for a while. It will happen, maybe at some point.
And it'll be glorious when it does.
The hangover is going to
It will be
be
worth it.
fantastic.
It'll be worth it for sure. And the Waffle House is going to hit the next day at noon. It's going to be worth it for sure.
I haven't been to Magic City. I want to go to Magic City.
Well, I'm not going to accompany you there, so
you'll accompany me.
no.
Okay. That's right, Mrs. Pilgrim.
I like how you were worried about Tina popping up and being like, "Hey,
Tina would go. Tina's down. Just like lemon pepper wings. She's ready to party. Don't you kink shame Tina.
tequila, don't hate on Arsenal. Don't hate on Arsenal." I've
The
got
post
enough.
match Waffle House after the other place. After the magic has happened, then the waffles happen at the House of Waffles.
Milan said, "Y'all look like Statler and Waldorf when it happens again."
All right.
Hey, it could be any moment. You never know.
Time flies.
Yeah, it does. No, we appreciate y'all. We appreciate y'all hanging out with us. Scarvesandspikes.com. Go visit the website. We got the articles up there. We'll be back tomorrow for MLS Monday. We chatting the whole league and all the crap that's happening right now and that's happened over the past couple of days. And then we'll be back on Wednesday to get y'all ready for Cincinnati. Reminder, we are going to be at the Signia before the Cincinnati match at home. So y'all come out. We got a live show. You can all come suffer with us together. I tend to try and give out at least one free shot or drink at the shows. So come out and answer whatever trivia question I cook up, and maybe you'll win a drink. So, but no, just come hang out with us. It's a good time. We do the streams on here as well, but it's also in person. So we try to get you guys up there. You can get on the mic for a few minutes and chat. Tell us your opinion. Tell us your thoughts. Complain, gripe. But it's a good time. So y'all come hang out with us for the Cincinnati match. And yeah, we'll see you guys tomorrow night. We'll see y'all on Wednesday. And quick shout out to Sweetwater Brewing Company here in Atlanta. Y'all know the deal. They have a ton of new beer out, by the way. I'll throw this out there. I was at the store today. And I mean, I've lived in Atlanta my entire life. I've been around Sweetwater was one of the first beers I ever had when I turned 21. They have so many different beers out right now, but obviously the Rowdy Peach IPA is Atlanta United's beer that is out. They got a ton.
2-1 ALFC. Sorry,
of course, poor Galaxy. But yeah, sweetwaterbrew.com. Go check it out. And at the end of the day, it is alcohol, and you can responsibly drown your sorrows with alcohol. Please don't actually do that. I'm kidding.
No car pops. No car pops.
Be responsible.
Uber,
yes. And then join the Patreon, patreon.com/Scarves and Spikes. And with that,